Irashaimase! Hello and welcome to Fataris' Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fataris. It's time once again for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and on the menu this Saturday we have AstroWings Space Wars, a fun voxel-based shoot 'em up. What kind of taste will it have? Let's get cooking and find out. From developer Towards, AstroWings Space War released for PCs in September of 2020. So it's a title that, as far as tastes are concerned, I would most compare to games like Galaga Legions. Titles where you're fighting these smaller formations of enemies with leaders, ultimately culminating in a boss fight at the end of a level. It's one that I've had a lot of fun with. The AstroWings series itself has its basis on mobile platforms, and this is the first PC release of the series, and it's one that I feel has transitioned really well. Jumping into the main menus, you can see that the gameplay is level-based. You have all these stages, and you unlock the next stage by defeating the stage that you're currently on. It's possible to earn 3 stars on every single stage, so that's important as those stars are used to unlock additional skins that you can equip in the hangar. But before we jump into the hangar, let's have a look at one of the stages so you can kind of get an idea of how the gameplay is. I'm starting on level 3 because I do not have a default level ship, making the earlier levels 1 and 2 very trivial, and even stage 3 itself is going to be extremely easy. Before you start a stage, you do have the option to buy shields or super weapons, kind of showing a little bit of that mobile platform origin that the series has. But don't worry, all the currency you use is earned in-game. Starting the gameplay itself, as the game loads, you have some quick tutorialization showing you the controls, so you don't get them all at once, but it's relatively simple, so it's not going to be hard to figure out the gameplay and how it works. So it's a fixed shoot 'em up where everything basically happens on the same screen. We have the ability to move freely around that screen, and one of the neat elements of our movement is the ability to rotate the ship a total of 180 degrees. We can basically rotate ourselves 90 degrees left and right. We can't face all the way down, but most of the time the enemy formations aren't in such a way that that'll be a problem. So the gameplay itself is wave-based. We defeat waves of enemies, which usually consist of smaller formations of enemies as well as more difficult leaders. And after, I believe, 4 waves on every stage, we encounter a boss. So the first time you fight a boss, it's going to be very difficult. At the base level, all our ship is equipped with is a single main gun, and it's really difficult to take out even the weaker enemies. But as we clear stages and defeat enemies, we earn coins, and those coins can be spent in the hangar. Here in the hangar, we can use those coins to upgrade our main weapon, which is our main cannon there. At this point, you can see that's where I've gotten the cannon up to. When you start, you just have one weak shot firing from the very center of your ship's nose. In addition to the cannon, or the main weapon, we can unlock and level up this cannon, which is a slower shot but is very powerful and fires in conjunction with your main weapon. The same holds true for the homing missile. It also fires in conjunction with your main weapon and the cannon, and once you start purchasing upgrades for it, it continues to get stronger and stronger. Then we've got some special weapons. So the laser is a special weapon that we have from the get-go that we're charging up throughout the course of the stages by defeating enemies. The shield and the super shot are those items that we can buy at the beginning of a level, giving us some bonuses, but at base level, I don't really think it's worth it, as they're actually pretty weak. You'd have to level them up first before it really makes sense to buy them to help you get through a stage. So in addition to upgrading the weapons, we also have the different ship skins in the hangar. So you start off with this default red and white fighter, which I actually really like the design of, but I like the design of all the ships in this game, including the enemy ships, quite a bit. So we've got this neat blue fighter that you unlock at 10 stars, this yellow fighter at 20 stars, and this awesome blue fighter at 30 stars. There's also 2 others I haven't unlocked at this point, this one at 40 and this one at 50. So selecting the ship and backing back out, that's why we want to earn stars from completing these missions. As you can see there, stage progress 80%. So even if you don't clear the mission, you can still get that star as long as you've gotten through the 4 waves of the stage itself and made it to the boss, the stage clear, and then the undamaged. It's very important if you're looking to get all the ships. So let's pick a more difficult stage to show you a little bit of how the gameplay increases in difficulty as we go through the stages. I'm still not going to purchase any shield or super shot just to save the money. I would rather put it into upgrading our main weaponry than upgrading the special weaponry. So this stage is where things start to become a little bit more difficult. We've got this enemy here that's firing these rapid fire shots, and truth be told, it's very difficult to dodge those shots, hence the reason I'm actually dodging around him, even if it means I can't always defeat, or rather, always shoot at the enemy at all times. So one thing that's nice about the little enemy formations themselves, those formations still fly around yourself and the leaders until they've ultimately been defeated. Although a formation will ultimately blow up if you destroy the leaders before all the smaller ships are destroyed. So depending on the waves themselves, it's really important to kind of learn how the waves come in and where to position yourself. If you're ultimately looking to perfect the stage, that's how you go about it. Just learn the enemy patterns and the formations that the waves happen to take. That is especially important in the boss fights. Oh, so I haven't used it to this point. I have talked a little bit about the laser. When you activate the laser, it drains that meter there in the top left, which we've been filling up over time by defeating enemies. So there you saw if you're not careful, it's actually relatively easy to be taken out by the bosses, as their shots and some of the weaponry they fire actually deal a fair bit of damage to your ship. Moving on, we'll take on stage number 11. So that's basically it for AstroWings Space Wars. Ultimately, this is a title that I'd see, despite having its origins in mobile platforms, is one that I've actually had a lot of fun with. I feel, as I said in my introduction, that it made the transition to a PC platform really well. That said, my first minus flavor for it is the game is actually very, very grindy. So in order to unlock additional power for your ship, initially it starts off relatively inexpensive, but the higher you get on the upgrades, the more expensive that it ultimately becomes to continue to upgrade the main weapon, the cannon, etc., etc. So that's kind of a double-edged sword, though, because even though it can be like frustrating, just always stuck in this long grind upgrading your weaponry, it could be something that's both satisfying and enjoyable if you're the kind that likes to just like sit and grind away at a game, almost like an RPG, to level up your ship. The other minus flavor is, as neat as the additional skins for the ships are, I really wish that there was some other like tangible benefit to changing between the skins rather than just cosmetic. It would have been great if they'd had different abilities, so like a ship that had really strong like HP but not power, but its weapons were weaker than the others, or like a glass cannon where you've got really powerful weapons but its shields are like, you know, basically like 1 or 2 hits and like that's it. But as is, it is still neat that they are all at least unique in their appearance, if nothing else. On the plus flavors, though, I do love the voxel graphics this game has. Everything has a really distinctive look, and especially when you see those ships, in the hangar or the enemy bosses displayed here on the main screen, it all has this really distinctive look that I don't know, just it's really like does it for me. Then I also love that the game does have the upgrade system, even though it's grindy to move up that upgrade path. I like that we have the ability to improve our ship and become stronger than where we are at level 1. And lastly, it's just along the lines of just the constant like upgrading and leveling up. It's just a satisfying gameplay loop. Stages that start off like difficult become almost trivial the more you've powered up your ship, and that's just like satisfying. Also, like just learning the waves to the point where you can easily move through a stage without taking damage is once again a satisfying experience to have. Ultimately, AstroWings Space War is a title that I recommend you check out. And along those lines, I'll include a link to the Steam page in the description below, so if you like what you see here, be sure to give this game a look, as at least if you have taste similar to me, you won't be disappointed. Alright, that'll just about wrap it up for this week's episode of Shoot 'em Up Saturday. As always, I want to thank you so much for joining me this week, and I look forward to seeing you again next week.